When a passerby found this pack abandoned in a parking lot, they made a horrific discovery. Nowadays, finding an abandoned backpack is usually worth a call to the police. But when one passerby came across an unattended bag in a parking lot, he chose to take a peek inside instead. And nothing could have prepared him for what he found in there. Until very recently, Tempe, Arizona was arguably only famous for being home to NFL team the Arizona Cardinals. But in light of one passerby's recent discovery, the city may become known for something else. It's unlikely to boost tourism in the area, though. On one June evening in 2017, a pedestrian happened to be passing by the Food City grocery store in Tempe. It's important to remember, though, that this is Arizona, and so, even though the sun was setting, the temperature was still over 100 degrees Fahrenheit at the time. The passerby, who has not been identified, has claimed that he approached a grocery cart and found a Jonas Brothers backpack inside. Instead of calling the police, however, he chose to open it up and take a look inside. And when he did, he must have suffered a huge shock. In spite of the heat and in spite of the location, someone had placed a living thing inside the backpack and abandoned it. And while it's not known whether the backpack had been zipped up or not, leaving a life in such extreme temperatures would surely have been precarious regardless. Specifically, the passerby had found a newborn baby girl swathed in a blanket. As a result, he immediately alerted the manager of the Food City store. The manager then dialed 911 for the fire department, telling the operator that the baby had likely been born very recently. For this reason, the manager had seemed mournful during the telephone conversation. Although he told the operator that the baby was beautiful, the situation clearly had made him unhappy. But under the circumstances, it's not surprising that he would go on to say, "This is so sad." Indeed, there was significant evidence that the baby had only been born hours before being discovered. For instance, the food store manager noted that the partly cut umbilical cord was still attached to the tiny girl. And the child couldn't have been in the backpack for that long, as it would have struggled to have survived in the heat. In light of this information, finding the baby's parents was the authorities' #1 priority. Consequently, local police have begun an investigation to try and track them down. At the present time, however, their identities remain unknown. As a result, the police have decided to explore all avenues. Local news stations, for instance, have showcased officers even dusting nearby payphones for prints. But although the hope is that any fingerprints found will be on file, the truth is that even using this method could take weeks to yield results. At the time, meanwhile, the baby was taken to hospital in an ambulance for a checkup. Subsequently, it was declared that the child was in good health. However, given that the mother had just given birth, she was publicly urged to also get herself checked out by a doctor. And, perhaps most strangely, the baby was actually abandoned within sight of a fire station. This is important, since in Arizona, all hospitals and fire departments are stated to be safe havens. This label means that babies can be surrendered there with no penalty, so long as the baby is not more than 72 hours old. There may be a number of reasons why the parents didn't choose to leave the baby at a safe haven, though. For instance, it's possible that they weren't natives of Arizona and therefore were unaware of the law. Conversely, perhaps they were from the state and just hadn't heard about it. Indeed, officials are aware that the information may not have percolated down to the people in need. Another key point is the existence of the Aid to Women Center, located close to where the baby was dropped. It's also designated as a safe haven, offering medical and mental care to women in need. Surprisingly, the mother also chose not to leave her child there. However, while speaking to ABC 15 Arizona in June 2017, Katrina Wynn from the Aid to Women Center suggested that it might have been shame that kept the mother from choosing a safe haven. Talking about mothers that abandon their babies, Wynn said, "They're thinking anyone's better than them, anyone's more capable than them. They'll leave it for someone more capable and with hope to find." After all, abandoning a baby is surely no parent's first choice. Whoever left that newborn girl in a parking lot would probably have done so because they felt they really had no other option. Indeed, they likely believed that the child was better off in the hands of another.